What's going on, YouTube? So right before we get started, some disclaimer. I used to be an Aperture Amaran user, lover, reviewer. It was just Amaran on this channel until one day, Godox, they reached out to me out the blue about their Litemons series, their LA200D light. And I said, sure, I don't mind reviewing that light versus the Amaran 200D. I made a video out of it. And if you guys are interested, I'll leave a link down below. But in summary, Godox, they beat Amaran in every single category. It was crazy. But what was even more crazier is I haven't heard from Godox since then. They don't even reach out to me anymore. And so does Amaran Aperture since that video. I don't know what happened in that video. I feel like I had a breakup with both brands. I don't know what was going on. So, of course, when Godox reached out to me 3 years later about their LE300Bi color light, I said, sure, with a question mark, because I wasn't sure if we're on good terms. I don't know what happened. I don't know. Anyways, in this video, I'll compare the LA200D light versus the LE300Bi color light. So, with all that said, let's begin. So the Litemons series by Godox, the LA200D versus the LE300 bicolor light. As you can see, the 300 bicolor light the box is a lot bigger than the 200D, obviously. Also, I noticed something different. The logo has kind of shifted a little bit. The horns are gone, so that is something that I noticed. Also, if you take a look at the accessories in the box, we'll explain why later on, but you get more accessories in the LA200D light over the LE300B bicolor light. So that is something for you guys to definitely take note of. Also, just want to point this out. The 300 bicolor light, it's metal. Metal and metal. This is all metal right here. The only thing that's really plastic maybe is the handle, but everything else is pure metal. So that is something for you guys to definitely take note. A light like this 8 years ago would probably cost over $1,000. Those were the days. And it's crazy that it's $200 and I think $240 right now, but this is retail $300. It's just a sale going on right now, but retail price is $300. So that is something for you guys to definitely take note of. Also, just want to show you guys a quick side by side right here. Also, the LA200D light right here, it's all plastic right here. Front might be slightly metal actually, but it's mainly plastic. So just want to throw that out there. But as you can see, side by side, the size is very different, and that's just because the AC power unit is built in the light. So that is pretty cool on Godox. So you only need to carry one cable and one light, and that is it. Whereas this right here, you need to carry the AC adapter, the additional cable that connects to the AC adapter, and the light. Now let's take a look at the back of the light. Here is the LA200D light. As you can see, you got your on and off switch. You got your dim knob right there. Definitely need the Bluetooth button so you could connect to your smartphone or your iPad. And also the FX button with the FX button knob so you can switch to your special effects that you like. Some lights out there, you need an app to control the FX button, but this light, you can control it on the actual light. So that is pretty cool. Now let's take a look at the LE300 bicolor light. Here is the knob where you could change the value. Also the power off and on, DMX in, DMX out, AC input, where your power plug goes. Once you click the mode button, that's your special effects. Use your knob to navigate through the special effects. Hit the mode again to go back out. You could use the knob again to change the value of your intensity of your light. Press the knob down and you could just go through the daylight to tungsten, however you like. Press the knob down again to go to the intensity. Also, you could click on the menu, go to your DMX menu, Bluetooth, fan, display, language. By the way, I love the color panel Godox. This is pretty awesome. And you could do your factory reset, fixture info, version upgrade, and there's a Bluetooth button so you could connect to your iPad or iPhone. And by the way, at the bottom of the light, there's a USB port where you could update your firmware. So there we go. Now let's take a look at the weight of both lights. Let's look at the cable cores first. As you can see, The 300 bicolor light is 14 feet versus 20 feet on the 200D light. And the weight difference, it's significant. It's about double just because of the AC power adapter on the 200D light. Now let's take a look at the actual physical COB light with the reflector on. Now for the 300 bicolor light with the reflector is roughly around 3,149 grams, and the Litemons 200D light, it's roughly around 1,506 grams with the reflector on. And speaking of my reflector, here is what both reflectors look like. And as you can see, the reflector on the bicolor light, the spotlight is bigger than the daylight. So there we go, very interesting. Now here is the power consumption part. We're looking at 5600K on both lights. And let's take a look at 10%. Here is 20. Here is 30. Here is 40. Here is 50. 60. 70. And at 80%, the 300 bicolor light is roughly around 215 watts, 90%. And here is 100%. And as you can see, the 200D light hits about 207 watts, whereas the 300 bicolor lights hits around 311 watts. Now here's just a solo test for the people that are curious about the bicolor on the tungsten side. Here's 2800K, here's 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%, 70%, 80%, 90%, 100%. Now as for the app, it's very interesting because this is the rarest moment that I can say that this app does not collect your data at all. Those unwanted phone calls and texts. Some of these apps are just collecting your data and selling to a data broker out there. So just keep that in mind. So kudos for Godox for not collecting our data to do that crazy nonsense on the side. But to set up the app to your light is very easy. Just download the app, hit the project 1, press the plus button at the bottom. Make sure you hit the Bluetooth on your light so the app can search your light. And once your light appears on your app, you could select it by clicking on the circle button, which will turn green. And then you just click OK, and then it'll just update. Once it's done updating, click OK, select your light, and then you're able to adjust your intensity, your color. You want to do daylight or tungsten. You could do special effects. So there we go. Very easy. By the way, since this is the same brand, we could definitely add another light. We're going to do the exact same steps. Hit the plus button. Make sure you turn on the Bluetooth on the LA200D light, the Bluetooth button on the back. Make sure you hold that down, and then your app should be searching for your light. Once that appears, you just hit the circle button, and then you just update your light to the app. And once the update is finished, click close, OK, and there you go. You can switch back and forth between the lights. That is pretty awesome, very intuitive. It didn't take that long at all. Yeah, this is probably the most easiest setup that I ever experienced, and I just did it right in front of you guys. So yeah, it's just, yeah, there's nothing to it. That's Godox right there. In fact, Godox has another way to definitely sync up your light to your app real quick, and that's the NFC. With the NFC, you can use it from your phone. You could scroll up the menu, hit the NFC button, and make sure you put the actual phone near the bottom of the light, and then it'll sync up. Very easy, very quick. However, the LA200D don't have this feature, I don't think, because I couldn't, tap it anywhere to access it. So I don't think it has that feature. But the 300 bicolor light, you just tap it at the bottom of the light with the NFC turned on, and you're good to go. That's kudos for Godox for making things a lot easier to sync up to the lights. So there we have it. Wow, I almost totally forgot about this. Definitely the bottom of the light, you get your handles. Both of them got the handles and also the umbrella holders. And by the way, keep in mind the 200D light, I used that for 3 years. still works just fine. It is made really well. Quality is really excellent. So that is something that I can definitely vouch for. 3 years later, still works. And as for the next test, here is the light meter test. Here is 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%, 60, 70, 80%, 90, and 100. And as I notice that the LA200D color accuracy, it's just a hair better than the LE300 bicolor light. So that is very interesting. Now for those that are interested in the entire spectrum, here is 2800K. Here is 10%, 20%, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. Here's 3200K, 10%, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Here is 4300K, 10%, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. And last but not least, here is 6500K, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. And there you go. That is the entire reading for the entire bicolor spectrum from tungsten to daylight. So let me know your thoughts down below. Now as for the next test, here is the audio test. This is when I turn on the light for 1 hour at 100% intensity. Here is the 300 bicolor light. And as you can see, it's roughly around the 47 to 50-ish decibel range when it comes to the audio levels when you just leave the light on for an hour. Here is the LA200D light. It's roughly around the 43-ish decibel area. So basically the LA200D is slightly quieter than the 300 bicolor light. Now as for the next test, here's the heat test. This is when I leave the light on for 1 hour straight at 100% intensity. Here is the LA200D light. And as you can see, the AC adapter throughout the entire duration do increase in heat up to 109 Fahrenheit at 1 hour. And the light itself is roughly around 96.7. So just keep in mind, this is 200 watts. Now let's take a look at the 300 bicolor light. And as you can see, throughout the entire 1 hour process, it remains the same temp. So that is pretty neat right there. That means their cooling system within the light works very efficient. So just wrap things up, the Litemons LA200D light and the Litemons LE300 bicolor light. I mean, both of these lights, they have their own, spots in their own division, right? It depends on what you guys are looking for. But I will have to say that their app, number one, very easy to use, very easy to set up, very simple. Also, they do not collect your data. So your data doesn't get all, transferred around to a data broker. So you get those texts and phone calls. Make sure when you're using a lighting company's app, look at if they're collecting your data or not. A lot of them are. Godox, I don't know why you're not collecting our data, but thank you. It's weird because 3 years ago, I brought that up about the Amaran. Amaran is collecting your data, whereas Godox isn't. And even 3 years later, they do not collect your data. So thank you so much, Godox. And as for the Litemons LA200D light, I mean, it's small, compact, easy to use. Menus are very easy to navigate. Also, the cable is longer than the LA300 bicolor light. And also, I could definitely recommend the light because I've been using it for 3 years. Unlike my 120D light, which malfunctioned. That's crazy. I think that's a $600 or $700 light at the time. But yeah, that's crazy. That light malfunctioned, but this LA200D light still works just fine. You can pick it up for $240. And I think the only cons I could think about right now after reviewing the LE300 bicolor light is I wish the light was metal build and it also had the NFC, and that would have been perfect. But still, at $240, still an excellent light. I still will be using it till it breaks down. Now, for the LE300 bicolor light, this light, it's amazing. It's $300 retail. Right now, it's $240 on sale. That's the same price as the LA200D light. May as well get this light, but keep in mind, this light is big and heavy. The cable is shorter than the LA200D light, and that's just because when you're doing 300 watts, you need a thicker cable. So I get it, you know. So they need to compensate with the length to the thickness of the cable to compensate the 300 wattage. And with that in mind, the output of the 300 color light, it's awesome from tungsten to daylight. I'm definitely going to use this light down the road for all my tests in the future. Also, I thought about this. If you're planning to work in groups or you don't have your phone on you, you could still control the light directly on the physical light. You could control the special effects and all that jazz. If you want to control the special effects on the Amaran lights, guess what? You need the app. The downside to the Amaran is you cannot control the visual effects. You need to go through the actual app for that, so keep that in mind. Amaran, you need to use your smartphone. So there is the Godox, they have a feature that Amaran doesn't, and that is the actual manual switch for these special effects. If you're working in groups, this might be really helpful for those folks out there because you don't need an app to access any of the features. Just use the actual buttons on the actual light. That is a godsend because for the Amaran lights, you need your smartphone, and if you have no battery on your smartphone, that's it. You can't even access your light. So this is a good feature on the Godox. That's interesting. And they collect your data. Very interesting. So thank you, Godox, for not taking that route because I'm kind of tired of getting these texts and phone calls from random people. And with that in mind, I just want to give a shout out to Godox. Thank you guys for sending me these lights over for testing. And also, please, for the love of God, do not disappear for the next 3 years. I don't know what I did in my last video. I gave you guys basically a 95% versus the Amaran, and you guys disappeared just like Amaran did. But anyways, I hope to hear from Godox once again. Who knows? We'll see down the road. If you don't see Godox in my next few videos, they left again. I'll see them in the next 3 years or something. But anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely click like and subscribe. And I guess I'll see you guys in the next one, all right? Take it easy. Peace.